Hello and welcome back. Here is activity 2, the midpoint formula. So the midpoint is a point halfway between 2 points, and we're going to figure out how to get a formula for this one. This is one, I think it's a little easier than activity 1, so I recommend trying it on your own. But anyways, I'm going to start the explanation of it now. So we're going to look at -5, 3, and 3, -9 here. And we're talking about the line segment that joins them. Whoops. 3, -9. Okay, so what we're going to do is then do the same thing, make horizontal and vertical segments to make a right triangle. So one is going to be vertical from here up to here. The other one's going to be like this. That now makes a right triangle. So that was part B here. Now start at -5, 3 and move half the horizontal distance and half the vertical distance to 3, -9. So let's see what we mean by that. So these are the same points as before. So from activity 1, so we know that the horizontal distance is 8, but you could also just subtract here to get that. Is 3 minus -5 is 8. So half the horizontal distance, that's going to be half of 8, which is 4. So we're going to go 4 units this way. So if we start from -5 and you go up 4, that leaves you at -1. And then half the vertical distance, well, the vertical distance was 12. So half the vertical distance here is going to be half of 12, which is 6. So we're going to then go from this point, go down 6 towards this other point. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you notice that puts you on this vertical line, or back on the diagonal line here. That point, because it's half of this vertical distance and half of this horizontal distance, is a midpoint. You can see it's exactly about halfway between the 2 points you started with. So that's why it's called the midpoint, because it's halfway. So how can we find the formula for calculating the coordinates of a midpoint? Well, the new x-coordinate is -1. That -1 is halfway between -5 and 3. And so that's what this is talking about, is the average. Let's read this real quick. When you calculate the average of two numbers, you find a number that is halfway between them. So for example, if your test scores are 70 and 80, well then your test average is, here's a formula for doing the average. You just add up the numbers and divide by the number of numbers you had, which is 2. So 70 plus 90 is 160, divided by 2 is 80. It's halfway between 70 and 90. So we can do the same thing here with the points we had. The x1 and the x2 were the x-coordinates. That's going to be -5 and 3. Add those up, divide by 2. -5 plus 3 is going to be -2 divided by 2 is -1. That is the x-coordinate we ended up here at this point. Let's do the same thing with the y-coordinates. The y-coordinates we had were, let's say, 3. They were 3 and -9. So we're going to do 3 plus -9. Divide that by 2 because you got two numbers. That will give you -6 over 2, which is -3. And that is the y-coordinate of where we ended up with. So that is the point, -1, -3. And yeah, it looks like we got that right there. So we have found a formula for the midpoint. You're just getting the average of the x-coordinates and the average of the y-coordinates to get the point halfway between x1, y1 and x2, y2. So the x coordinate of the midpoint is going to be x1 plus x2 divided by 2, and this is y1 plus y2 divided by 2. Now, if you weren't able to do the rest of this on your own, you should pause it here and try number 3, part B, on your own. Okay, so here is the answer. The x bar is going to be the x1, -5, plus x2, 7, all divided by 2, which comes out to be 2 over 2, which is 1. The y coordinate of the midpoint will be 2 plus -3 all over 2, which is -1/2. So, or -0.5. That makes the midpoint 1, -0.5. Okay, so give yourself a pat on the back if you did that. Up next, we're going to do activity 3, circles, which is a pretty tricky one. You're probably going to need some help on this, but I'll see you in the next video.